Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today I got a fun and exciting episode for you guys this evening because we're going to be going over Zuiki's new campaign to bring the Sharp X68000 Z Super as well as the XVI or 16 to the West. Because I've done a couple of videos on their emulation hardware for the X68000 on the original X68000 Z as well as this new proposed hardware. And one of the #1 questions and comments I would always get in the videos was, is it going to come West? And I wish it would actually be sold in a US market. So that's exactly what Zuiki is doing as of now. They heard you, they watched the video, they even referenced my video in their Indiegogo campaign, talking about bringing this hardware to North America. So we're going to be going over all of the new hardware features, how you can order one if you want to, and what you should expect out of this versus the original X68000 Z. Because in my initial review, I did talk about it was a fun time, but it definitely was limited and was for a very specific crowd. So it seems like Zuiki's kind of cleared up a lot of the issues I had with the original hardware on this new version of it, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But obviously the X68000 still holds gamers' imaginations. This was an absolute powerhouse of a PC back in the day. It was used as the development kit for the Capcom CPS and CPS2 and has a ton of incredible arcade ports as well as original games for it. And as much fun as the X68000 Z was, the fact that it was limited to one file format really did make it kind of more of a tinkerer's device. The build quality of the actual emulation box as well as everything that came with it, the keyboard and mouse, were some of the best stuff I've ever seen in any sort of recreation. Honestly, the mouse and keyboard would be high quality if you bought them just for Windows today. So Zuiki was definitely onto something, but with their second hardware revision, it seems again like they've kind of ironed out all of the issues that I would say the original hardware had. But of course, it is a crowdfunding campaign, so you just need to remember this hardware is not finalized. We'll be talking about how far along it is in this video so you can make a decision about it. And I realize that the X68000 is not cheap hardware either in the Zuiki format or in original hardware formats either. And the reality of X68000 ownership is you always have to recap the boards, the power supplies always go bad, and you kind of need to get some sort of SCSI emulation device on there so you can load games via hard drive, because dealing with original floppy disk can be a very big pain, and a lot of those games absolutely hold their value as well. If you're going to get a fully featured X68000 setup, I would say at the very minimum you would want to budget around $1,500. And I would say $2,000 and up really is going to be the price point you want to get into if you want an original X68000 set up just to play games and have fun with without thinking about it. So obviously there is still a market for X68000 hardware out there, and Zuiki bringing these emulation boxes out is definitely going to be something people do enjoy. Now if we take a look at their Indiegogo page here, you'll see there's only 9 backers, but they're 20% along with their goal. It just seems like they're kind of gauging interest again. Now I can't stress enough with anything crowdfunding, and I don't think Zuiki's doing anything here, but it is just kind of my asterisk. Do not spend any money that you're not willing to lose. I would highly imagine Zuiki's going to deliver everything they've said because they've already delivered everything so far, but the reality is crowdfunding campaigns can and will come with delays on certain products, so definitely go in just expecting that this thing may actually go past its December ship target date, and there may be some waiting to go along with the ride. Sometimes that's the fun part about crowdfunding campaigns, but I just want to make it very clear I am not behind this project. I have nothing to do with Zuiki. I am not being given any sort of incentive to make this video. I just know you guys are stoked about the X68000 and you wanted to hear more information about it. And honestly, it is a fun thing because again, people covet this hardware, and it's not like they're making any new X68000 PCs out there. And the reality is, in Windows, X68000 emulation can be very difficult to deal with as well. Now there's going to be 2 different models of this, the Z Super as well as the XVI or 16 at different price points. And we will talk about the gigantic 2,000-pound elephant in the room right now. These devices are not cheap in any way, shape, or form, starting at $944 and going up from there. Now it is a complete package. You get the keyboard, you get the mouse, you get the controller, and you get the PC as well. So you do get a lot for your money, but it is also a lot of money to get those things. And on my initial review, I did say that I absolutely love the quality of the keyboard and the mouse. Those things are great, but the reality still is it is an expensive product. We're kind of getting into Neo Geo levels of just kind of how much you're going to spend on something like an X68000 Z or Super or the actual 16, which is fine. The collectors out there, if they want something, definitely do pick this stuff up, and it is also hardware that I anticipate isn't going to be made in huge numbers and will probably retain its value. Now you should never buy any video games or hardware as an investment opportunity. Basically, you should always put that money in your 401k and be guaranteed some sort of return as you get older, but the reality is a lot of this hardware hardware is coveted, and if you actually go online right now and try to buy one of the original minis on eBay, they are definitely going over the asking price of when they were sold at retail. So it seems kind of like a safe bet, and honestly, this is how Zuiki is going to be selling them in the US via this campaign, at least for now. So it is seemingly going to be your only opportunity to pick one of these things up outside of trying to import it from Japan later on. And the fun part is it really is just going to act like an X68000, all the way down to having to use the actual point and click interface if you want to use the operating system, and having to learn Human 68K, which is basically a derivative of DOS if you want to get a little bit deeper under the hood. So again, even though it's going to support more file formats and a lot more hardware, you are still going to be dealing with a situation where it is just that classic PC, for better and for worse, which really does mean you need to learn a lot about how it works. And that's what they talk about here, a perfect blend of retro and modern, and that's exactly what it is. You have all the creature comforts of modern hardware, HDMI and things like that, but you still have the retro experience, which isn't just the games, but also how the hardware actually works and how you interact with it. But honestly, the X68000 has an absolutely spectacular library of games. There's so many great arcade ports, so many original games, shmups, fighting games, beat 'em ups, and everything else in between. It really is one of those platforms that people just absolutely want to play, and I 100% understand why. And because on the MiSTer FPGA side of things, we do have a core, but it isn't complete. Honestly, software emulation is the best way to experience something like the X68000 outside of owning original hardware, or now maybe with Zuiki's new units right here. You're going to see they're going to have MIDI in and out, as well as that SCSI half-pitch 50-pin cable, and I can't stress enough how important that SCSI really is going to be, because if we take a look at something like X68000 on MiSTer FPGA, or even in software emulation, it is so much easier to interact with the games and run them when you're running them on a virtual hard drive, so you can basically load everything up quickly. Even if you have the original floppy disks on an original X68000, they can be absolutely slow to load up, or having a hard drive basically makes them instantaneously loading, and that's something I definitely talked about in the review of the original Z unit, that I wish it supported something like HDF files, and now at least with that SCSI connector on the back, you could use something like a SCSI emulator to be able to have a solid state SCSI drive in the X68000 and be able to load up games, which is going to make a fundamental difference. On the hardware side of things, if you take a look around the back, you're going to see MIDI in and out, as well as the SCSI port, so you're going to be able to have MIDI audio into this unit, as well as SCSI hard drives. I'm assuming you can probably spin up a real SCSI hard drive, but no one would want to do that whatsoever. And because of the size of the case, they say you can also add an ITX motherboard into this thing, and they're working on software integration between Windows as well as the X68000 side of thing, which could actually end up being a little bit easier on the ease of use front. If you have Windows installed and can kind of move data between the X68000 installation and using Windows, it is going to aid more people in using this, because again, even though if they are improving the software, this is still a device that isn't 100% just plug and play outside of the SD cards. But that's a lot of fun of something like this, because an X68000 computer isn't plug and play either. You have to spend time getting it set up, and again, it is going to be better, I'm assuming, than software emulation, because even the original unit did a better job and was a lot easier to deal with than something like actual X68000 software emulation. But the most exciting thing is going to be that MIDI support, because I absolutely love MIDI audio, and most of you do as well. So here's your one and only soundtrack sample. This is what some games on the X68000 MiSTer FPGA core sound like when you have MIDI implementation, but come back because I got more details. I mean, one of the best things about the X68000 is its ability to use something like MIDI, and having Akumaja Dracula with MIDI support is just absolutely outstanding. Now, as far as other changes to this hardware, you're going to have an option for that 16 MHz operation, including a button to change the speeds, because there were two different CPU speeds on the X68000, and between the Super and the 16, you're going to see that it has a more powerful APU as far as the ARM cores, as well as the actual GPU. How that's going to actually figure into emulation in the future, I don't really understand understand, because honestly, the original APU that is in the original Mini Z worked perfectly fine for all the games I threw at it. But you guys have been asking for this thing to come west, you wanted the opportunity to purchase it, and that's exactly what you're getting now. So that Indiegogo campaign link is down below, and again, I can't stress enough, I have absolutely nothing to do with this project. I did ask Zuiki if there was going to be any preview units to get on camera, because obviously you're going to have to purchase this thing kind of blind. I don't have any hardware to show you, they haven't responded back to that request yet. You can kind of just go off my original Z unit review if you want to decide to pick something like this up. It is expensive, it is specialized, and it's probably going to be your only opportunity to pick one up unless you want to go to the resale market, and you know full well that's usually going to end up costing more than retail. But it's one of those things, I love a company like Zuiki is even trying this in the first place. The X68000 is just one of those mythical machines that everyone wants, but no one really wants to spend the money on it. Now you can spend a little bit less and get one. When we're done, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.